Boom. Oh my God. Hey, what's up guys? In honor of Inktober, we're going to be showing you how you can create your own ink watch photography using only 2 lights and a couple of supplies from your craft store. And we're going to be doing all of this from Isaac's living room. So we're going to set up everything right over here. This is where he's going to set up the lights. He's going to set up the boards. What do you even have for this?
So we're going to do some crazy ink stuff. And I've done like some crazy ink watches in the past where I kind of mesh like a glob of ink going down water, and then I put the watch on it, and it looked pretty cool. This is where we're gonna dump the ink. This is $9, and this is to hold frogs or crickets. We got a funnel, and this is what we're gonna use to kind of guide the ink in. And we bought a bunch of acrylic paint, and we're gonna mix and match what's best for the watches. I actually stopped by at Ross and bought a couple watches. I got some boards as well because this is basically what we use as a backdrop. The black one is for photographing the watches, and the white one is to photograph the ink.
All right guys, so we're going to get set up back here, and then we're going to show you what to do next. Isaac put the funnel right here, and what that's supposed to do is he's going to drip the paint into the funnel, and so that way when it hits the water, it hits it really nicely, so it gets this nice spread. That's how you get that really cool ink look.
Whenever you're using colors, you always want to put one color in one bottle. Your main goal is to mix it while you pour it in. And whenever you do this, you always want to have an assistant. So thank you, Lance, for helping us out. What Lance is gonna do while I'm waiting for the shot is you're gonna pour it in at the same time, and then when you start pouring, you pour as slow as you can, but with the same consistency. Right. Yeah. I'm just gonna test this and see how it lands in the water. Boom.
Oh my
You see that?
God.
You see that? That's what I'm talking about.
That looked so freaking cool.
Isn't it?
So right now, Isaac went to pour out the old water and pour in some new water so that we could do another take. Every time you want to change color or you want to do another take, you essentially have to clean everything out. In the meantime, the setup is really simple. He's got one light up top and one light right here on the side. And the light on the side is to be like the kicker for the ink. It's gonna give the ink really nice detail in the shots. And the light up top is supposed to fill the background, so you get a really nice clean white background. It makes it a lot easier to cut out the ink or just use the white backdrop for the composite.
With this, you gotta also make sure that there's no bubbles because it's more post-editing work, so you just gotta pop that.
The camera that Isaac is shooting with will be a Canon 5D Mark IV, and attached is a 100mm f2.8 lens, and he's doing this to get as close to the ink as possible so we can get as much detail out of it. Everything is set up, the ink is set, the lights are set. Let's take some shots.
Cool, we got that.
Yeah.
Watch time?
Watch time. So when it comes to shooting the watches, there are two ways you could do it. You could do it the easy way or the longer way. The easy way just involves one light setup, a photo of the watch, and then you move on to Photoshop to composite it. With the harder way, you light the watch a certain way, take a photo, change the lights, take a photo, change the lights, take a photo. And the point of this is to capture as many features of the watch as possible. So that way you can composite all those photos together in Photoshop and have a really nice image of the watch. We're gonna show you guys how to do both ways.
All right, so the first way we're gonna film this watch is the easy way. I changed the background on this because black is easier to edit on Photoshop with the watches. With the paint, it's easier on white. So now we're gonna take this watch and light it one way and just take it as is and take it in Photoshop.
So right now we're getting ready for the multi-light setup, and it's really important when you're doing the multi-light setup that the watch doesn't move and the camera doesn't move at all. The only things that can move are the lights, and the reason why is because you're going to composite all these images together. It's going to save you a ton of time if the watch is in the exact same spot in all the images.
All right, so this one is for the background. We're trying to light the background as subtle as we can to get like a nice subtle separation from the watch, because we're gonna cut off the background anyways. And we're gonna use this light to light the watch in different angles. Okay, so this light is gonna light the top portion of the watch and it's gonna highlight the dials. Now I wanna light the sides real quick. So this light is gonna light the side of the watch. This light is gonna light the knob and the left hand side or the right hand side, whichever you're looking at. We'll light the bottom piece of the watch, and this will highlight the strap and the name. Lastly, I want to add this is to highlight whatever I miss, so we can go in Photoshop and just fill in the lighting.
Now that we have all of our photos, it's time to make our final images. We're gonna jump into Photoshop and put it all together. Here are the ink images we'll be using to put together our first composite. It's really up to your preference, whichever ink images you wanna use, but what we're looking for are the poofiest parts of the ink. So after a couple of basic adjustments to brighten up the white background and add some contrast to the image, we're gonna use the lasso tool to cut out the watch from its dark background. You don't have to be too accurate around the wristband because that's the part of the watch we're gonna cover up with the ink. We added a feather of about 2.5 pixels, but it'll change depending on your image. Next, we're gonna drag the cut out watch on top of our first ink layer. You wanna resize the watch to make it look like the ink is surrounding it to give a better effect. Then we create a layer mask and start painting away the wristband of the watch, since that's the part we want to give the illusion of being consumed by the ink. We use the lasso tool to help make our masking a little bit more precise. The next step is to place another ink image on top of the watch. To make it look more realistic, we found a natural line in the ink right here and cut this section out using a layer mask. Again, we used the lasso tool to make the cut more precise, and we ended up with this. Now with the multi-light setup, every image is meant to showcase a different part of the watch. So after applying some basic corrections to all the images, we opened them all up in Photoshop and started with the darkest image to start building. The first image we used had a really nice glare on the glass, so we decided to use that. We placed that image on top of the first layer, making sure that both layers lined up. Again, this is why you don't want to move the camera or the watch when you start shooting. Otherwise, you're going to have to realign every layer to make the effect work. So after placing the second layer on top, we create a layer mask, fill it with black, and paint white over the areas we want to show. In this case, we're showing the glass. When you're painting on each layer, you want to try to find the natural lines in the images to help hide the masks. For this layer, it was the rim of the glass. We set the brush to about 50% hardness to hide the mask. We use the next shot to show off the crown of the watch. To make sure the layer is aligned, you can set it to 50% opacity to help. Then again, create a layer mask, fill it with black, and paint white over the areas you want to show. This next layer was meant to show off the hands of the watch. For this, we used the polygonal lasso tool to make sure we were hitting only the hands since they're so thin. We also used this layer to highlight the hour marks and the bottom right lug. That's that little part that connects to the wristband. I looked it up. Finally, we used the last layer to highlight the logo on the face of the watch. Unfortunately, Isaac bumped the board while shooting, so the watch moved a little bit, which meant we had to nudge the layer a couple of pixels to line it up properly. For this layer, we used the magic wand tool to select the layers of the logo and mask everything away. Then, once we're happy with the result, we flatten everything into a single layer. And that's it. Now that the watch is put together, we follow the same steps as last time. Again, we're using the lasso tool to help cut out the watch. Because this image was so dark, Isaac used a temporary curves adjustment layer on top of the image to brighten it up so he can make his masking more accurate. For this watch, in the spirit of Halloween, we decided to go with some awesome black and orange ink images. Again, place the watch on top of the first ink layer, resizing it so that the ink surrounds it. Then find another layer you like and place it on top of the watch using any natural lines as guides to cut it out. We ran into some harsh edges at the bottom, so Isaac found an image where the ink was flowing towards the camera and decided to use that as the foreground for the image. After cutting and masking that portion out, we ended up with this. And there you have it, guys. There's really nothing complex going into these images. It's really just playing around with different ways of pouring the ink in and seeing what your camera catches. In the description, we have a download link of all the images Isaac captured for you guys to practice with. If you guys decide to use these images and post them, tag us because we'd love to see what you're coming up with. We've also included links of all the equipment used to make this video down below, and a portion of every purchase comes back to the channel, so that's much appreciated. Otherwise, if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more content and more tutorials coming your way. We are a new YouTube channel and we want to create content that you guys find useful. So if you have any ideas for this channel, list them in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.